Hey you! You're probably using your ultimate wrong. Here are 5 ultimates that everyone uses wrong that you probably don't know about. Let's start with Octane's ultimate, the jump pad. Most players either use this jump pad as a simple rotational tool or as a one-way ticket into the lobby, but it can be so much more. The first thing that comes to mind is that you can use air strafing by slowly turning your view and adding movement input in that direction to slightly turn mid-air. And as far as the jump pad's placement and timing goes, it's a good idea to try to keep the jump pad off cooldown and ready for use when poking a team. If you or a teammate get enough damage or even a knock, that is your opening to put a jump pad down and pad in to abuse that advantage and close out the fight. That being said, the jump pad should never lead straight into a team and should be placed in a way where you can land behind cover or with a slight high ground advantage to the enemy team. If it's possible, you also want to ensure the jump pad flight path to be behind cover from the enemies so you can't get beamed in the middle of this very predictable trajectory. As for the pad itself, the jump pad has 200 health and can be destroyed by enemies or the Octane who placed it. You can use this to your own advantage when taking a position by breaking it so nobody can follow you. And if you're escaping an enemy team pursuing you, you can also shoot the jump pad, getting it down to about a 190 health, jumping on it and then breaking it while you're midair. You can also throw a thermite on the ground right next to the jump pad to eventually have it break on its own. Another quick jump pad tip is that if you stand next to it and then punch towards the jump pad so the lead up of your punch places you on top of the pad, you'll bounce straight up without any forward momentum and you can stay on the pad forever. You can also combine this with a movement input as you step onto the pad to go in any direction which you'd like. If you're holding an area and you got nothing else to do, you want to set up jump pads in different places, because you and your team can see the jump pads through walls and as such can decide to chain them together in the middle of a team fight to confuse your enemies. You can also place a jump pad in a doorway or at the end of a high ground or zip line to force your enemies to take the jump pad and become easy to beam if they don't pay attention. And if you're a PC player, you can unlock a whole new dimension with the jump pad by using tap strafing. For example, you can do a double jump and then turn up to 360 degrees with a tap strafe, but that's only the start. Thanks to tap strafing, you can place a jump pad underneath an obstacle or upper floor, like any level in construction building, take the jump pad and then double jump, tap strafe 180 to get onto the next floor. You can also run up next to a jump pad instead of taking it and do a tap strafe or redirect to change your direction before hitting the jump pad in the first place. And as for Wraith's portal, this too has a lot of uses, but I rarely see most of them other than being used as a simple rotational tool or entry into a team fight. For example, you can place the portal between 2 doorways when you are inside of a room to lock it. If an enemy tries to enter the room, they have no choice but to take the portal and turning themselves into an easy target because you know where they're gonna show up. It is also harder for them to see inside, and that's actually the next tip. You can stand behind the portal to make yourself a lot harder to see, which is useful because in some very specific cases, there's not going to be any cover that you can play behind other than the portal that you previously had placed. If you're in the final ring and you need to win a so-called heal off, you can place your portal, run around, and spend most of its range. Then place the portal right next to its opening. After that, all you have to do is jump into the portals over and over and over again to stay alive, hopefully long enough to outlast the enemy team. You can also jump between portals in a team fight if you need to stay alive for a little bit longer. On top of that, if you're being chased or just feel like trolling your enemies, you can place a portal with the exit outside of the map to get a few easy kills, or at the very least, shake off your pursuers. If you're entering a team fight, it's usually a good habit to place a portal as you and your team runs in, because this allows you to jump back out through the portal if things take a turn for the worse. Just make sure that when you place a portal, it is on the ground so you can crawl back through it should you be knocked. And you also want to make sure that it's placed so it's safe on the other side as well. If you're holding a position, Wraith can portal in any direction. This, combined with her face, allows Wraith to scout for her team over 100 meters away from the home base. And speaking of bases, the portal is also great for sieging passive teams. As a Wraith, you can pull off a so-called kidnap by starting a portal midair, preferably in the line of fire from your teammates, and then running into the enemy base. Once you're there, you want to activate your face when you start getting shot or focused, and then place the portal either on top of an enemy or right next to where they are about to be, so they accidentally walk through the portal so they can get beamed by your teammates on the other side. Keep in mind, an enemy won't get kidnapped if they stand still, but if they chose to stand still, you can counteract this by punching them into the portal yourself. And of course, as far as resources go, you can use the portal to loot the care package or death boxes with a safe way back if you get focused. And Pathfinder's zipline is rarely used properly, if at all. Most Pathfinder players I see use maybe one per game and have it available off cooldown for most of the game. Many Pathfinders are either holding onto the zipline for too long and miss out on good opportunities, or they've gotten burned from improper zipline placement, getting them killed in the past. First and foremost, despite what Reddit tells you, Pathfinder does have a passive. This passive refunds your ultimate when you scan a beacon and removes 10 seconds from its cooldown every time you scan. That means that if you're in the early to mid game and you are rotating and you know there's not going to be any other teams around, you can place your zipline to cross an open area much faster than running and get ahead of your enemies. The zipline is also great for taking high grounds, but keep in mind it is a double-edged sword, as the same ziplines can be abused to kill you if you're holding that position later in the game. So if you know that an enemy team isn't holding the high ground that you want to take, you're better off placing it in a way where anyone taking it is exposed to someone who would be holding that height. For example, you could place your zipline straight up where they are forced to jump off of it to get on top of the high ground, instead of a shorter zipline that would end right at the ledge, as the ledge ziplines are just that much harder to hold from the high ground. If an enemy is chasing you, you can place a zipline onto a high ground, take it, and wait for the enemy to follow. They probably won't expect you to be waiting for them and turn into a very easy beam. You can also use ziplines to perform super jumps, hyper jumps, all kinds of jumps to fly a lot higher than a normal jump. These can be placed mid-fight to make yourself super difficult to hit, and you can place them next to high grounds or roofs to super jump on top of them. And of course, if you are holding a high ground position planning for late game, you can place ziplines onto other high grounds to claim that space as well. As for Horizon, her ultimate is incredibly strong, but I rarely see players using it correctly. Her recent nerf did not help, as it makes it much more difficult to get the most potential value out of her kit. First and foremost, you don't want to throw the ultimate into the enemy team blindly. Almost every Horizon ultimate should start with your tactical, as this gives you a better view of the battlefield to place the ultimate properly. You can also guarantee a little bit of damage on your enemy by throwing an arc star right where the black hole is going to land right before you throw your ultimate. You also want to communicate where the ultimate will land so your teammates can prepare grenades, or at the very least focus fire on any enemy that might end up getting trapped in it. There's a major emphasis on team play here, as it is very difficult to get enough damage to score a kill with the current state of the black hole. As for the ultimate's placement, you should probably know that it breaks doors, and that it will suck enemies out of cover and houses if placed properly. This means that you can throw an ultimate next to a door that an enemy is hiding behind, as this will break the door and then suck the enemy out of the house into your ultimate, exposing them to you and your team without giving them much of a chance to fight back. You generally want to place the ultimate in ways where it can suck enemies out of cover rather than right on top of them, as placing it on top of them gives them a chance to break it before the ultimate even activates. Enemies inside of the black hole will be highlighted for you and your team, and if you aren't sure where to shoot, you shoot the highlight rather than the enemy's distorted character. And finally, as for Bloodhound's ultimate, most players use the Beast of the Hunt to run a little bit faster and to get the highlighting feature, and not using this ultimate anywhere near its full potential. First and foremost, you must understand that the ultimate will reward you with a longer duration for every knock that you get. This means that the best time to use the ultimate is not before a fight, and not necessarily in the middle of it once it has started, but instead you want to use it if your team gets an enemy very low or even gets a knock on them. If they get knocked, odds are that they're gonna get revived, but then if you push up and get that re-knock, this will add to your ultimate's duration, and the decrease on your scan's cooldown gives you that chance to push up with your team and secure the knock, or at the very least run down the rest of the team. Also, this only counts if you get a kill, so make sure to kill steal as much as possible for the ultimate's sake. Yeah, for the ultimate's sake. When you're ulting, the tactical has such a short cooldown that you generally want to spam it as much as possible. And also, when you activate your ultimate, that means you'll want to make sure that you look around the area before engaging. Since enemies are highlighted in red, this allows you to quickly catch any enemies that might be around you looking for the third party. And once you've finished the fight, especially since your ultimate's duration goes up, you should generally look around and continue spamming your scan to make sure that no team comes in for a third party without you noticing. And remember, in any team fight, just because you run faster and your screen looks cool doesn't mean you do more damage or take any less damage, so stay humble and within the realms of what your hitbox allows. And those are just some of the things I learned while playing Bloodhound for over 100 hours. If you want to learn more, check out the video on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.